It's Tuesday, and that means it's the Author's Corner here on the Own It platform. And you may see that I have a special guest, and I also have my own other little guest. His name is Lucky, and he likes to come on, and he's going to help us out today with this conversation. So I'm pleased today that I have a fellow author with me. We're both from the Hay House entrepreneurship community, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in the discussion. But now I would like Stacy to introduce herself and tell us what you really want the audience to know about you as far as who you are in being an author.
I'm STACY ROCKLEIN, and I am a relationship coach and author and speaker and content creator over on YouTube mostly. And I'm on a mission to eradicate loneliness, one conversation, one relationship at a time, and just published my first book at the end of last year. And I'm kind of making the rounds to get it in front of more audiences, because I think the work of healing is the most important work of our lives.
Yeah, and I think it's really up to us as the authors to sell the books. And I think there's a balance between what I call being pushy or being aggressive, where you bombard people with emails and you're constantly on social media and it's constantly buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. And you reach a point, at least I do, where I don't even want to hear anything more about the book. I understand that authors are under pressure, and especially if you have a contract with a publishing company, you're under a lot of pressure. But there's a balance. That how do you achieve that balance between I want to reach the audience, I want to give them my message, but I don't want to be I'm going back many years, the Fuller Brush man, where I'm coming and I'm just bombarding you with every time you open your email, there I am. Every time you go on social media, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. How do you balance that? Because you said you're also a content creator.
Well, I think that's the key to it, honestly, is just to provide good content for people and to let the book support what you're sharing. There are a lot of things that you can give people for free, tools and tips and help and support that. And that's what I do at YouTube, or like little videos for supporting people, that people can get that for free, and just like podcast interviews. And if the person feels like the message is for them, that the instruction is for them, then they will go seek out the book. And I think that way it feels like you're giving them something that's valuable without shoving the book down their throat. But I hear you. You're right. We really are left to market completely on our own. And that is, for someone who's just, starting to write a book or thinking about writing a book, it's the secret. You don't really know until you're well into the process that it's going to come down to you for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. When I wrote my book, Heal Your Heart from Within, actually it was called Empowered for Well-Being, and that came out. Actually it was called Finding Sanctuary in the Pandemic Age, because I wrote it for my cardiology patients, and it got published very quickly in 2020, because that was a time when people knew that healthcare providers didn't have all the answers, and I had to give people a direction of where to go and how to take care of themselves. So the book got published, and then I changed the name of it because I wanted to get it out with more traditional publishing, or try at least with a book proposal. And I was told in no uncertain terms that you can't say pandemic, it was going to be over. People were going to forget about COVID in a year or so, and there would be no need to have this book. So I had to change it. So it became Heal Your Heart from Within. It came out in 2022. But because my book was out there, and I used it for my cardiology practice, I didn't have to sell it at all because the
Yeah.
practice literally sold the book. And it was so easy because we had a large practice and everybody got a copy of the book. So if you have a practice of over 1,500 people, you're ordering a lot of books. Of course, for sales, that's bulk sales. And that really doesn't count as far as how well the book sells. I know, at least with the New York Times bestseller list and all, they actually flag that if a corporation or a person, if or a group of people purchase a large amount of books, it does give the impression that you're just doing that to increase your sales. For me, at the time, I knew nothing about sales because I don't even think I had joined the entrepreneur community yet. So it just worked out that I didn't have to do anything with my book. And now that I'm out of the practice, I had to go back to Alabama. I still I'm trying, but I've reached a point where because my book was written for that specific audience, I'm in the process of writing another book. So I really don't talk about my other book. But on social media, I'm getting people ready for the new book, which only so far has 3 chapters written out of 8, but that's it's getting
Well,
there.
I don't want to, you maybe have talked about it before, but I mean, I'd love to hear what your new book is about. Is it a similar, are you in the similar kind of topic?
It's really more about lasting transformation. So it's what's happening with transformation. There's something called fatigue syndrome. And anybody that works in any type of corporate business organization is probably familiar with it because it means that companies have changed hands so many times and leadership has changed so many times that people don't really know if they're coming or going. They're told to try this, to do this in the workplace. It physically starts to make them sick. But there's another side to that change fatigue, and that is that when you're doing personal transformation, and I saw this for 30 years in my practice, especially women, we've been taught what to do. They try all kinds of self care, diet, exercise, yoga, meditation, self awareness, productivity. They do everything. And yet, what they find is that the results don't last. It's either short term or sometimes it's really not at all. People that read self help books, there was some research that says that almost 95% of people that read a self-development book find that it doesn't really work for them and that they get depressed and anxious down the road after reading the book. So looking at all that, and I've always worked with the heart, you have to engage your heart. And sometimes that gets misinterpreted. But what it means is emotional engagement, emotional intelligence, authenticity, your values, and processing emotions. Because if you don't feel those emotions and you don't work with emotions and you don't engage your heart, you're not going to have lasting change. And, women go through all kinds of life transitions, everything from career, that they're caretakers. I mean, you look at so many things that women do that I really thought the time was right because we really need to look at what we were teaching women about change and personal transformation and why it doesn't work. So that's what the book is about.
Yeah,
So,
that's beautiful. I think you're right. There's this saturation of especially with social media, we get the next new book. This is the one that promises the answer, and then we're handed things to do instead of, it sounds like what your book is doing and what my book is doing is asking the person to go in and kind of take charge of their own
mhm.
transformation instead of just receive someone else's idea to try to onboard, which does make you tired and feel discouraged. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it really gets you. You have to really be engaged with yourself. Let me close my door here. One
No
second.
problem.
My dog is driving. He's barking. I'll be right back.
didn't get his microphone.
He's always got to bark at the wrong time, but what are you going to do with him? That's who he is. He thinks he's protecting the house. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
No
I'm
problem.
back. But, again, you have to engage yourself. And I've seen in the healthcare profession, what really got me started with this, I like to say I'm the nurse that reconnects individuals to their heart, because we've been taught to go outside ourselves for the answers, to look to others, whether it be anybody professional, anybody in government, anybody in organizations, churches, anything. We've been told that other people know better than us and not to trust ourselves. So we turn to these people. And when we do, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with looking to other people, but we just embrace that, and we embrace it with our head, because we're told to be logical and to be in our head. A child is in their heart and their head.
Yes.
But as an adult, you're told, get out of your heart. It's illogical. Get into your head. So boom, 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 we're given A, B, C, D of what to do. And we expect that it's going to work. But if we're not involved in the process, and the only way to get us involved individually is to engage the heart, because that's where your ancient wisdom is. That's where your inner knowing is, and your intuition. And you get your heart and your brain on the same page. So that way you have logic and emotions working together. And that creates a scenario where change could not only occur, but it could be lasting. And you don't have to go through all the frustration of this, that, and the other thing. And, I had patients that even spend tons of money on things because they were told this works, do this, do that, take this course, do that, sign up for this. And in the end, they didn't really get a lot out of it because it was separate from them, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with your book, and you said you're giving parts of your book away. And I totally agree with that. And I know as part of the Hay House Entrepreneur community, I remember telling us that you could give your whole book away on videos, Instagram posts, Facebook, any platform. You could give people that whole book and they will still buy it because they want to work further with you. They resonate with what you say. And I've heard mixed things about that. I've heard some authors say, well, I'll only give A, B, C, and D. And then they have to buy my book in order to get the rest. What are your thoughts on that, about giving the information in your book freely and how much information that you give?
Well, I do think that, and this kind of goes with what you were saying, I think we can give things from the book and it still isn't going to be the experience of the whole book. We've got stories in there and processes in there, and mine is filled with exercises and prompts in there, because exactly what you were saying, it needs to be a process where the person takes the content and makes it their own, so that it feels like their process. It doesn't feel like it's being handed to them. So, you couldn't give that all to one person in one video and have them not feel overwhelmed. So little bits, I think, are completely not only fine, I think that they're really helpful. And then if someone works with that and thinks to themselves, oh, okay, this actually really is something that feels like it's going to truly transform me, truly make a difference, then I think that they would go get the book anyway. Yeah, absolutely. Or you give someone a PDF and they would rather listen to you on Audible, or, it goes back to, what is the purpose of your book? And if your book is to support your whole business, then, you're not going to look at the sales as any kind of, impact on your income. It's more an impact on people and getting it in front of more people. That's the goal.
Yeah, I like that. I think we're called to be authors and writers. Difference between an author and a writer is a writer could write and maybe keeps it to themselves or only shares it with a small group, like maybe on a small blog or whatever. And an author goes out there and gives the message on a wider, a more published level. So I think we're called to do that because we have a message to give and we want to get that message out there. And, I think sometimes we think that, well, if I tell somebody too much, then I've given away my book. But that's not true. That's not really true because there's always more that people could learn. And that's why there's mentors, where people mentor with people. They get all the information and then they have a mentor in order to take that even further. It's the same thing with a book. My plan with this new book that's coming out is I plan to do a lot of short videos on YouTube and Instagram to give people the information. And then when the book comes out, then they could purchase the book at that point, and keep going over things. But I have no problems with giving information away at all. I think it's the way to go. With the publishing process, I know you did a hybrid publisher. I did, it was hybrid too. I went to the sister company of Hay House, Balboa Press, and I had a very good experience with them. I thought it was very seamless. I'm not one that could upload my own book. I get frustrated too easily. Geez, I mean, I just know I couldn't do it. And I know you went to a hybrid publisher. And if you want to talk a little bit about your experience and if you would do hybrid again, or would you do independent, or would you wait for a traditional publisher? What would you do?
I mean, it was a twist and turn kind of experience. I had initially thought, just like you said, I think that those of us who know we are supposed to publish books know it in our beings. We probably can remember it all the way back to being little kids, right? Imagining ourselves as being published authors. So that was always for sure going to happen. And I had a successful digital course that I was creating this book from. So I thought that I would do the Hay House Authorpreneurship Book Contest, which is, you write the big proposal. And, one thing I think I did well along the way is I kept getting support. So I got a book proposal coach who helped me write that. And I think it was the first contest that Entrepreneur had just been opened up. And I got an honorable mention. So I didn't get a contract, but I got a feedback from my proposal. So I resubmitted it. Nothing happened the second time. And I had kind of promised myself all along to have a plan B in every situation. And so then I decided that I would go ahead and write the book and start looking for a book agent. So that's a whole query process, which is, it's got its own learning curve of how to find the right agent, how to query, all of that stuff. So I got a little help with that too. And then went off on my own and did that for about 6 months. And that was the timeline I had given myself, 6 months to query agents. And that did not prove fruitful. So at that point I was like, okay, I can either go self-publishing. And I had done some workbooks on KDP, on Amazon KDP, their self-publishing platform. So, I knew how to do the process. I knew I just had to find a cover art person, but I really wanted strong editing. I wanted a really good developmental editor. I wanted a really good line editor. And so I decided to go hybrid so that you kind of had that one person who's like getting you the editing, getting you the cover art. They're sort of like your project manager is like, if you're doing a rebuild on your house, right? It's like your contractor, and then they do all the like side work for you. So then I decided to go with hybrid publishing. And anyone who's listening who's not familiar, that means that you're paying a company a certain amount of money and they're helping you with all these processes. And then if you can different levels of split on profit. You can, the hybrid publisher I work with, depending on your contract, you could actually still get 100% of your profit. They have different tiers. But then they do all the work of getting you the support team that you need. And you still write the book. The editing process, I think, compared to like a publishing house, is probably more hands off than if you were like Penguin Random House. Their editor is going to probably be a little bit more aggressive. It's all coming back to you to do all the editing, though, even down to when they send you back a document that you know has gone through their line editing. I would still find mistakes. And like that does still come back on us as authors to carefully read through. I mean, I did the Audible for mine, which was a separate contract, and I found mistakes during the Audible too. So I had not found with my eyeballs reading it. So I ended up going through hybrid publishing, and as a first book, I was pleased with the process because I didn't get into like decision overload or analysis paralysis. I didn't get so overwhelmed that I felt stopped in the process. I felt like I was moving forward. But, you know, there was a miscommunication or somewhere the ball got dropped and my book was published ahead of the timeline that I wanted. And that was frustrating, but not derailing. It just changed my publication strategy process. That wouldn't have happened if I had self-published. So I think if I was doing it again, now that I understand the whole process and I had some support through the whole process, I think I would go self-publishing route next time. Because one of the disadvantages of it are that, you know, KDP, when you work directly with KDP, which is Amazon self-publishing, you go in and you're putting everything in there, but you're getting all your numbers. You can see everything. You can see how the book is doing. You can see how many things are being purchased. When you go through a hybrid publisher, at least with my experience, all that information is going to them and then they are distributing royalties to you. So you don't have the data, which I like. Like I like that I can go into Audible and I can see all of my data. So that would be nice for self-publishing too. So I think it kind of depends on what an author's, you know, what they want to take on as far as the process of publishing. Like publishing a book in the world is so much more than writing the book, which I thought was hard enough. So yeah, it's quite a process. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but yeah, I think I would self-publish next time probably.
Yeah, it did. It really answered the question. And you brought up something that I have not done yet. When I first wrote my book, I did go through a book coach, and I have to say it was good. She really gave some good things. It was also expensive.
Yes.
It's an expensive process. And, I thought when I did a book proposal, and I thought, okay, should I get a book coach? Should I get a proposal coach? And I had looked into it, and of course, it was expensive, and it doesn't really guarantee, of course, nothing could guarantee, but it doesn't guarantee that it's going to be exactly what the publisher that you're looking at really wants. I mean, how did you find working with a book coach and the feedback that you got from the traditional publisher Hay House? Did you find that the feedback really gave you a better handle on everything they were looking for, or did you find it was just kind of general to the manuscript?
Yeah, working with the book proposal coach, because it was my first book proposal, was really helpful because she helped me with some of the like hook related things. And I found the process of writing a book proposal actually helpful for creating your publication strategy. And this particular book coach or book proposal coach I found through Kelly Notaris's company, KN Literary. And the person I worked with was really phenomenal. And she also kind of helped me because it is very expensive. You get a certain amount of hours with them. She also helped me create my next step for, no matter what happens. Like, we created what she called like a, this isn't the word she used, but it was like a skeleton chapter. She helped me write one chapter that had a structure that was going to basically be the structure I used for all the other chapters. So it was kind of just like this really foundational piece, which it was really valuable for me going forward on my own. So expensive, yes. Working with her was amazing and really helpful for a first time. Now I understand that process. I wouldn't do it again now that I've done it and I learned. I think if you're going to pay for a professional coach to come in and help you with something, you want, and I'm a coach, you want them to give you the information that you need so that you work together for a while and then you can go run on your own. And so that she did really well. She gave me the information I needed, and I wasn't like, I can't go forward without a coach anymore. She gave me, like, learn everything you can from an expensive, membership process coach, and then implement it on your own. I have to say, with the feedback I got from Hay House, I was disappointed. I really was expecting something more than I got. It was pretty generic. It gave me a little bit of guidance going forward to rewrite the proposal and resubmit it, but not enough to be helpful enough where I would make it stand out again, I felt like. So I was a little disappointed, and they were only giving feedback at that point to the honorable mentions, which was
Right.
10 people. So recently I heard that they're giving feedback to everybody who submits, which makes me, know that they're not going to get any better feedback than that. That's a lot of people to give feedback to. So
Yeah.
it was pretty generic.
Yeah. And I asked because I had heard that before from several people in private conversations. And
I don't mean saying that. Hay House, if you're listening, like, that would be a great improvement. If you could give us more specific feedback, that would really help.
Yeah, I do, if you don't mind. I do plan to share this on the entrepreneur community.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got nothing but amazing things to say about that platform. So that's just a specific piece of feedback.
Yeah, and I think the feedback, again, if it's not really tailored to what is needed, but then we don't really know what is needed. I have a mentor of mine who is very, very familiar with traditional publishing, very familiar with Hay House, knew Louise Hay very well. And when I had done my proposal and I just submitted it, I had just asked her to look it over. And, her knowing what she knew about Hay House, she had never published through them, and she has published a few books, but she never published through them. But knowing what she knew, she thought that it captured the voice of what they would be looking for. But like she said, you don't know how many books they have coming down the pipeline similar to yours. The first time I submitted a proposal, it was a little different take on the heart. And not long after I submitted it, guess what comes out? A pretty famous person who had worked with another famous person who basically had a book that was saying the same thing that I was saying, and it was already out there in publishing. So I kind of knew at that point that my proposal would absolutely go nowhere, because Hay House already had this dynamic team that was publishing on the same topic and looking at the heart then in the same way that I was looking at it, and already had the information out there. So you just don't know. It's not to say that if you submit a proposal, you hear things like that too, where people say, oh, I submitted a proposal, I thought I would win, or I thought that the agent that I would get an acquisition, and I didn't. They didn't like my proposal or my book. And it doesn't mean that. It just means that you don't know what's going on inside any publishing, any acquisitions, as to what they have and what they're looking for. Maybe
Exactly.
their statistics are telling them that, okay, we don't want something about um, uh, self-development and this or that. We want more of a how-to book on something else. Maybe they're dealing with shamanism or you don't know what they're dealing
Right.
with.
What's
So
trending?
therefore,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't know. And you don't know what they consider trending and what they will think will last.
Yeah.
Will it last down the road? Or is it just a trend that, because to publish takes about 2 years?
Mhm.
So are they looking at it as, well, in 2 years, I don't think this is going to be something. And that's actually when I did a book proposal. And I had my title as Finding Sanctuary in the Pandemic Age. And it was actually right at the end of 2020. And the feedback I got was the concept of the book they liked, because it was about self-care and it was about helping people help themselves. But they said the pandemic's over, it's going to be long gone. By the time your book would be published, nobody's even going to remember that COVID existed. So that was
Boy,
the
that's not
feedback.
accurate anymore, is it?
No, but that was the feedback I got, and
Yeah.
that was the feedback I took. And I went back then to Balboa Press,
Mhm.
and I told them what had gone on and how it could be changed and whatnot. So yeah, you just don't know. I mean, they said it's going to be over, it's going to be done. This book is not timely. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's 6 years later.
Still talking
And
about
I
it.
think that book could have flown under that title. Basically, it was the same. I did change some of the information, but the same information for Heal Your Heart from Within. It just had a different title. So we're getting close to the end here. I'd like to spend a few more minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your book? If you could give us
Yeah.
the name again and where.
Yeah. I don't know if this is going to come across or if we're like mirrored or whatever. The name of the book is Forgive Without an Apology: How to Heal, Set Boundaries, and Create Deeper Connections. And it is a book for self-healers. It was created out of a digital course that I guided people through, but this is for the person who is a self-healer. They want to do this work on their own. And it is taking forgiveness and it's creating it as a tool to use to release yourself from not just your past experiences, but from the defensive behaviors and the unhealthy patterns and the limiting beliefs that came from those experiences, so that you can live a more intentional life of your own making. People come to this work either from something very specific that has hurt them, or some specific way they've hurt someone else, or they know they're stuck in a pattern of behavior. They can see it in their relationships. They can see it in their life choices. And this is to use the idea of forgiveness, not a traditional way of thinking about forgiveness. One of the first chapters is breaking down the myths of forgiveness, but also to connect forgiveness with boundaries. Because if we don't have boundaries, we won't feel safe enough to do the process of forgiveness. So we really have to use boundaries, and also take the opportunity as we're forgiving something to create boundaries. That I think of boundaries as a circle of safety around a relationship. And so everything that's inside that circle of safety are the behaviors and actions that are supportive of the relationship, and everything outside of it that is beyond the boundary is what is unhealthy for that relationship. And this is a very, subjective experience of setting boundaries, but you really need them if you're going to do forgiveness, because you have to be protective in a healthy way and open in a healthy way. Boundaries are to help you stay open. So it really also comes back to my mission to eradicate loneliness. There's a lot of loneliness, and I feel like loneliness is when you don't feel seen in a relationship, and that is something that we can help the people around us start doing for us. We can have an active role in eradicating loneliness in our life. So that is to kind of support that mission too.
It sounds wonderful. It sounds absolutely wonderful. And I think that there's so many people out there that would benefit from that book that are dealing with loneliness. It is a difficult concept. And it was really a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thank
And,
you for having me.
uh, I love having these conversations. I don't call them interviews because to me, it's not a question and answer. I like the way the conversations flow. That you get to know the person. We've gotten to know you, not only that you're an author, who you are, why you wrote, what your message is. We've learned a lot about how to publish, how to do things, what the process is. And I really thank you for
Yeah,
being
thank you
on
for
with us
having me.
today.
And
And
it's fun for your audience to get to know you a little bit more too, and also for people to have sort of the you know the true story of publishing be told, because I would have loved to come across some more videos before I was diving into it about, what was ahead of me. I would have still picked it, but what I was going to be experiencing. So thank you for being open to that conversation too.
thank you for everything. And thank you to our audience, to those that are listening, to those that are watching and listening, those that will be doing it with the replay. And I hope that we've given you not only some information, but some inspiration that, even if you're out there and you say to yourself, oh, I don't think I could ever write a book. Yes, you can. It's just a matter of getting out there, putting pen to paper or putting fingers on the keyboard, I guess, and just starting the process. You never know where anything is going to take you. And I truly believe that each one of us has a message that the world needs to hear. So go out there and give your message out. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time today and taking the time to listen live or on the replays. And thank you again, Stacy.
Thank you.